Good to go.
Awesome. Welcome to this Friday's Tech Talk, everyone. We have an awesome Tech Academy graduate, Jeff Luxmore, who's going to share with us his journey from entry-level software noob, recent graduate from the Tech Academy, to senior software developer, owning his own consulting firm, managing Internet of Things solutions for a transportation fleet. And it all sounds so interesting, and I'll let Jeff tell you about it because he's the one that knows about it.
Great. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. Like she said, I'm Jeff Luxmore. I went to the Tech Academy in person downtown Portland in 2015 from about July to the end of the year. And then I got my first job in technology in January of 2016. So what that means is I have now been a professional software developer for over 5 years. So for all of you who are currently attending or just getting started, I hope to give you some insights about, the things I've learned over 5 years. So, we're talking about from noob to now. I'll bring up my website here, which is jefflux.com. I'm sure all of you have a website, of course, right? It used to be a lot goofier, but I kind of simplified it, just some very basic information about me. And of course, a little information about the skills that I have. And then, of course, link to LinkedIn. Please feel free to link with me on LinkedIn, Jeff Lux, JEFLUX. I've been happy to be a link with anyone from the Tech Academy. And of course, you're happy to reach out via LinkedIn and ask me any questions you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you lessons, and feel free to sort of ask questions along the way. Like she said, we can answer questions at the end, but if you have a question related to what we're talking about, feel free to just pop it in there and I'll answer it as we go. Lesson 1, you will never know everything. So just sort of get ready to deal with that, right, to begin with. If you look at the curriculum that you're learning, there are just so many things. You're going to talk about C# and SQL and Git and JavaScript and HTML. It just goes on and on. There's a ton of things to know, and you're never going to be great at all of them, and it's going to kind of frustrate you at times, but just be okay with it because you're going to be okay. There's just too much to know. On top of it, technologies are, even in the 5 years that I've been doing it, technologies just change really fast. I think Angular is a great example. It was Angular.js several years ago, and then Angular 2.0 came out, just Angular, but it was essentially an entire rewrite of Angular. So if you were writing Angular 5 years ago and you're writing Angular now, it's just different. I'm going to share. I don't know if any of you are familiar with stackshare.io, but you can go and you can see the technology stacks that companies are using. And so I just brought up a couple. This one is Pinterest. Of course, everyone knows Pinterest. And if you look at the technologies that they're using, they got Python. Of course, you guys are probably learning Python. React. I've been using React over the last year and a half. NGINX, Java, SQL. It looks like some Amazon technologies. Django, which of course I think I don't really write a lot of Python these days, but I think that's Python. If you think about the idea of being an expert in all of these things, it's impossible. You would need multiple lifespans. We'll look at another one here, Udemy. Some of you are probably using Udemy to learn things. And again, you just see a ton of technologies. You start looking, Elasticsearch. Does anyone know what Elasticsearch is? I've used it a little bit. You're not going to know all these things. And any reasonable employer is not going to expect you to be an expert in all of these things. You're going to be really good in one or two and pretty familiar in a few other ones. So it's okay. Just be used to it. Lesson 2, accept a challenge first and learn how to do it second. I think this is actually a really good piece of advice that I've used in my life, and I think it's something even like Danny has said to me when I was attending there, is that you're going to look at these job postings and be like, oh, there's no way I can do that, and just accept it, and then learn how to do it. And this actually comes from I think it comes from Richard Branson. So I have an image here. He's got a quote. I should have had this folder ready to go. This is embarrassing. Here we go. If someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure you can do it, say yes and learn how to do it. That's where that comes from, Richard Branson. Of course, Richard Branson started Virgin Records and Virgin Airlines, and he's like super, super duper rich. So as we tend to do things, listen to super rich people. I don't know if you also know Jamila Jamil. She played Tahani on The Good Place. Here, let me just bring up Jamila. Here, let's bring her up real quick. This is Jamila Jamil. She was a...
just a heads up, Jeff. If you're trying to share screens other than your slideshow, at least for me, all I'm seeing is the slideshow.
Oh, that is good to know. Hold on.
Sorry about that.
Me too. Me as well.
Well, so...
and I love Jamila Jamil. She's amazing. Her podcast is awesome. I'll go back on.
Yeah, so let me I don't know how to represent here.
Yeah, so stop presenting and then choose full screen instead of window or tab, I believe, and you should have an easier time switching between the presentation and...
There we go. So can you see it now?
Yeah,
we can.
Okay. So Jamila Jamil, this is who she is, and we were talking about so Richard Branson. She sort of took Richard Branson's advice, and she was I think she was a radio personality or a TV host, and she got the opportunity. Someone asked her to say, "Hey, can you DJ for Elton John's birthday party?" And she had never DJed before, and she said, "Yes, I'll DJ for Elton John." And then she spent a week learning how to DJ for the party. It's a great story. I think she retold it on a Jimmy Kimmel clip, but it just goes to show accept a great opportunity and then figure out how to do it. I love Jamila Jamil. I think that's sort of an idea that I've been trying to do. When I got this opportunity a year ago to go build this new technology, I was like, well, I've never worked with IoT. I've never done this, never done that. I was like, I could probably do it. I'll figure it out as I go. Of course, know your limits. Like if someone asks you to do brain surgery on their cousin, don't say, hey, I'll figure it out. Know your limits. Next lesson. Imposter syndrome is real. And I can't stress how much this has been a part of my life, trying to manage this part of software development. And it's not limited to software developers either. If you do any reading on this, you'll see that basically anybody in a lot of, you got people who are graduating from medical school who have this. There's artists, there's probably famous actors and actresses who experience this. This is not unique to software development. It is very widespread. Basically, all of my friends and everyone I've talked to have had some experience with imposter syndrome and been like, I'm not qualified to do this. There's memes on the internet about, you growing up and you becoming an adult and you're like, oh, I thought adults knew how to do everything. That's not the case. Adults are just people and they probably don't know how to do everything. And you've seen that, some people can't tie their shoes. It's no different in software development. Not everyone is a genius. It's just that simple. And, I had a real hard time with this feeling of imposter syndrome, especially coming from a code school when, 5 years ago, code schools were really starting to take off. And I was actually the first code school employee to be hired at Ski Data, which was my first technology job. And I actually opened the floodgates at Ski Data, and they ended up hiring a number of other code school graduates in the years afterwards from both a couple from Tech Academy, I think, and then from Epicodus. So I was really the first one, and I worked with, at the time, it was basically all computer science graduates. So I had this really deep feeling that I wasn't good enough because I was working with CS graduates. And I'll talk more about this in a minute, but CS graduates aren't that great. Don't worry about that. It's really important, though, that you are able to identify what the risk, the warning signs of imposter syndrome. So I would encourage you to go to Wikipedia or go watch videos or whatever, read up on it, and know sort of what the warning signs are, so that later in your technical career, when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, you'll be able to identify it, so you're not just be like, oh, I'm feeling kind of down, I'm not productive. That's may be how you feel, but it may actually be imposter syndrome. And there's, of course, things that you can do to help you alleviate that and become productive again. That's going to happen. It's going to happen to everyone. If it doesn't happen to you, it's probably because you're a terrible person. And that's actually the next lesson. Know where you stand on the Dunning-Kruger chart. So let me bring up the chart here. Some of you may know this already. I had like 1,000 slides. I wish I was more organized. Okay, I'm just bringing it. I thought I had bookmarks. Oh, I have a picture. Here we go. So let me bring up this one. So this is what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, and it's that. Let me just read the thing so it's really clear. It describes the observation that people who are ignorant or unskilled in a given domain tend to believe that they are much more competent than they are. Thus, bad drivers believe they're good drivers, humorless people think they're funny, and people who have never held public office think they'd make a terrific president. How hard can it be? This is like a really important concept that people understand, especially in software development, because I don't want to work with people who never get past Mount Stupid. And you're probably all in some stage of this, and I've been in different stages of it, and I'm in different stages of it at this moment with different pieces of technology. What I've really worked hard to do is to understand where I am on this chart at any given time, so I'm not a total jerk. So, for example, we'll take C#. I'm probably in the valley of despair on C#. C# is just an enormous library, and it's going to take a long time to become an expert in it. And I'm at the point where I know I'm very effective in it, but I know there's a ton that I don't know. We'll take a new technology like Flutter. I've been working in mobile development for a while, and I'm getting to be pretty productive in it, but I'm still way up in this overconfident part of it. Let me tell you a funny story. There was a job that I was applying for when I was at the Tech Academy, and you do the hands-on, demo projects, and I was doing one for this thing called Blue Ribbons Review, and I thought I was doing really great. And it was cool. It was effective site, and I kept doing all these things, and I thought I was doing really good at it. A lot of entity framework. I didn't really use a lot of SQL Server, just writing raw SQL. I was using entity framework. So I go to this job interview, and it was this company in Portland. I don't even remember the name, but I really wanted to work for them. They would build all these cool things like freelance for companies and stuff. And the question came up. It was about something about SQL, and I, at this point, I was at the peak of Mount Stupid. And I said, well, I don't even think you even need to really write SQL by hand anymore. Entity Framework can do everything you need it to do. And the lead developer and the hiring manager just sort of both turned on me in that moment. And they were just like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm writing SQL all day. And it was because of the Dunning-Kruger effects. I had sort of gotten started in it, and I thought I could do anything in it, and I was at the peak amount stupid, and I guarantee the reason I didn't get that job was because I was way overconfident. Just be aware of where you are on this. This is another way that people write it. You start out, you don't know anything, and you're like, oh, I know everything. That's where I lost that job. And then it just gets self-enlightenment. You realize how much you don't know. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Always know where you are. I've worked with people who just are way overconfident all the time and underskilled, and those are absolutely the worst people to work with. Don't be that person. Next lesson. The most valuable developer in a company is not necessarily the most technically skilled developer. I'm gonna toot my own horn for a minute, but I was probably the most valuable developer at Ski Data, and I was there for over 3.5 years. Ski Data had this way. It's this company. If you don't know what Ski Data is, that's fine, but it's this Austrian company, and they have a very Austrian culture. They're European, and they have this very strict formality about all these things, including how they rate developers. And I never actually saw it. It was something the managers see, but they have like this 4-quadrant thing on where, and they place all the developers in these boxes, like leading and things like that. And I was always up in the top right corner, which was good, And it wasn't because I was the best C# developer, the best JavaScript developer, or anything like that. It was because I was the most effective. And most effective doesn't necessarily mean you write the best code. It means things like you can communicate well. It means you take like initiative, or when you're given an assignment, you don't just necessarily blindly do it. You pick up the next Jira task and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. It says I should develop AI that destroys human race. Okay, that's my job. I'll do it. No, you don't do it. You ask questions. You'd be like, is this the right thing? Is this the next feature we should be developing? The idea of taking ownership, if there would be a service interruption, I would be on it and be like, I took it personally if there was a service interruption, and I would resolve it as quickly as possible. Those were the reasons why I was one of the most valuable employees at Ski Data. Not because my JavaScript was great, because I still suck at JavaScript for the most part. And this should be very good news for all of you who are the Tech Academy, because if you're coming into technology as a second or third or fourth career even, you're thinking like, oh, I got to start over. How am I ever going to be any good at this? How am I going to be as good as computer science majors? And honestly, you don't, unless you're going to go work at the highest levels of like Google, or like write the software that makes software. Most people are not going to be as effective as you are. I went to community college after high school, and then it took me a long time to get a bachelor's degree. And for example, I think people who went out in the real world and worked and then went back to college tend to have a much better grasp of how to apply things. And sort of what I found is that the Tech Academy is a lot like that. Is they're teaching you applicable skills. You may have heard stories about, CS majors coming out of college and they're like, I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and they know how a binary search tree works, but that's really all they can do, So I'll give you an example. Let me, and you guys may have made something like this. So I'm gonna I got permission to do this, so don't yell at me. This is something I made at Ski Data. And so the story behind this is one of my first tasks there within the first few months was we had like 115 customers at the time, and they were on like 7 different versions of the database, and it was like a total mess, and we had to migrate them all onto one version. And they had no way, like they didn't even know who the customers were. So I spun up a .NET MVC site to manage customer data. So like this is it. These are customers, and you could like click on a record, and you could see, okay, they're in California. This is the address of the place. Really basic stuff. If you want to edit the site, like it's these very basic drop downs. This is basically what you get with .NET MVC out of the box. If you've done any of the code first, you guys will probably see this stuff. You'll be like, oh, this is very basic, and then I added buttons, and things like that. I threw this together based on my experience in the Tech Academy in just like a couple days. I scaffolded from the database, and this is basically what you could do with a tutorial in .NET MVC. This turns out to end up being an integral part of the product now. And my CS coworkers saw it, and they're like, how did you learn how to do that? What is that? I've never seen that before. And this is just a great example of like CS students coming out of college and not knowing how to apply what they're doing in the real world. This thing ended up just growing and growing. And then, I had a colleague who he built like this cool thing, using whatever he used. I'll just give you like an idea of the volume. So when I started working Ski Data was here, and we were handling, 9 million transactions a year. And when I left Ski Data, we were handling 15 million transactions a year. So we grew it enormously. And me and my coworker who took over and started working with me, we were both from code schools. So just keep in mind, the most valuable employee is not measured by sheer technical skill. Next lesson. Building a professional network is essential. Don't be a jerk. This was told back in the Tech Academy. I think the Tech Academy, and one of the things that they do better, they do best, is their job placement, their job preparation. Everyone that I went to school with, a bunch of cool guys, they all got jobs pretty quick. I got a job pretty quick. We were well prepared to get that first job. But the first job is the hardest, honestly. You're filling out a ton of applications. You don't really know anybody. I think I filled out 80 some applications. And I'll give you another tip. Don't apply for jobs between Thanksgiving and Christmas in the new year, because basically everybody in the tech industry is on holiday. They're not working. They're not hiring people. So that's exactly right when I started applying, which is why I ended up applying to like 80 places. I felt it took me longer to get a job. I started to get discouraged, but it was just because of that time of the year. So the first job is absolutely the hardest. They're like, is this person able to do this job? And things like that. But then after that, your second job is a lot easier, and your third job, and and if you want a job hop, your 80th job is a lot easier to get. But it really is going to come down to a professional network. And what I mean by professional network is I don't just mean necessarily like, clicking the connect on LinkedIn, and posting on LinkedIn, hey, I'm looking for a job. Let me just give you sort of like a rundown of the last few years for me. So I got the job at Ski Data. I was there 3.5 years. And then some guys I knew who I worked with my previous career, they said, hey, we want to build some software, and they were looking for advice, and kind of they knew I worked in software now. We were talking, and they ended up just saying, hey, why don't you come work for us and build these things we want to build? They never advertised a job, it was just because they knew me. So I went to Spokane, and that job, that company ended up going out of business because of Corona. Car business got hit in a weird way. But the owner, he is now, I'm a contract worker. So I started my own LLC, and I'm working for him. But at the same time, I was like, I wasn't really sure where it was going, sort of at the end of last year. And I started looking for new opportunities. I told the owners, like, hey, I may need to just get a regular job, so I have healthcare and like a normal situation. And I reached out to a guy I know, and he's just like, hey, I'll hire you. I didn't end up taking that job, but it was good to know. Like, he never advertised that job that he was trying to fill, and the thing is, most jobs are never advertised. I don't think y'all really understand just how many jobs are not advertised. It's let me bring this up. So if you just I Google everything. What percentage of tech jobs are not advertised? And research shows 70%, as much as 80%. And you can go through and you can even go to page 87 of the results, and you're going to get the same information, which is like 70 to 80, 85% of jobs are never advertised. And if you think of it that way, you're like, well, how the hell am I ever going to find the good jobs? And the answer is build a professional network. And the way that I did it is, one, I'm like a super nice guy and everybody likes me, so that's helpful. But like things like, companies have obviously now is a terrible time, but we had a lot of company events, we'd have dinners, we'd have beers after work, whatever. I would always go to those. And I would like talk with my coworkers. I would talk with the coworkers I didn't work with, hey, what are you working on? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, can I pet your dog? That kind of stuff. And you just sort of build relationships that way. And so it's really interesting. What happens is I've been approached by people I've worked with, they just like hit me up by text or email or whatever. Hey, we're hiring. Are you looking for work? In fact, I just got a text from an old coworker a couple weeks ago. He works at SurveyMonkey, and he's just like, hey, I'm transferring to a different department, so my role's open. Are you looking for a job? And I don't know if SurveyMonkey will advertise that job. They may advertise that job, or they may just hire someone they know. And the thing about government jobs, so I had a job offer that I applied for and decided not to take with Multnomah County in the fall. Is a lot of what I've heard from people is government jobs by law have to advertise their positions. So you'll go to Multnomah County or the state jobs or whatever and be like, oh, here's a job for a developer. This looks great. But what may actually be happening is they're just advertising the job so they meet the legal requirements, and they're already going to hire someone who got referred through a professional connection. And you'll probably never know that. You just won't get the job. You're like, oh, I didn't get the job, but it really came down to you just not having a professional network. If you're really bad with people, how to win friends. Some people, are just not good with people. I would read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read part of it. I didn't finish it because, like I said, everybody loves me. But find your resources to figure out at least some skills to interact with people and stuff, because it is going to matter. If you're just going to take one job and stay there forever, fine, be a jerk, let everyone hate you. But if you're going to want to build a professional network, you're going to want to at least build the basic social skills. Next lesson, source control, so Git, and workflows are 100 times more important than you think they are.
Hey, I actually have a question right before we jump on that. It's helpful to understand that you can make a network after you've got the job, but how do you get into that circle to get your first one in the tech industry? Because that's much more harder to do.
Yeah. So that's actually a great question. How do you build a network before you're in the tech industry? And that is why I said the first job is the hardest. You can't really do it now, but back when I was at the Tech Academy, there's a bunch of guys that I was hanging out with and working with at the school, and we were actually going to meetups pretty regularly. We were going to the .NET group meetup. We were going to a meetup that New Relic would hold once a month, and they were honestly, they were useless for networking because it was a lot like showing up. It was like going to LinkedIn and clicking the connect button. It's not really a relationship. The person doesn't know you. They're not going to think of you when the companies are with us hiring. Honestly, it's just really hard. And that's why sort of what I think a lot of people end up doing is You get your interviews out there, you try to get any job that you can get. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that in a minute too. You get the first job you get, and really that first job is really your most valuable way of building a network. If you're really personable and you can go to meetups, that might help and things like that. I was just talking with this guy that I'm doing work for about another mobile developer in Flutter, and he's like, where do we even find a Flutter developer? And he's just like, I don't know, go do the Flutter meetup and see if anyone mentions that they're looking for a job. So it's a great question. The answer is, sorry, it's going to be toughest getting your first job. But once you get that first job, really work on. It's not like you're going to spend every day, you're going to go in on Monday and be like, hi, Steve, it's very nice to see you. Keep me in mind if you're ever looking for a coworker. No, you're not going to do that. Just, be engaged with your coworkers. That's really all you can do.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. And it doesn't take a ton of effort either. You just be a good coworker and you'll build your network. But at the beginning, it will be a little tough to get in. Back to source control. My coworker put together the Git workflow. I'll talk about what that is in a second. And basically, he said to me, if you don't follow the workflow and I delete all your code, I don't care. Which is really painful to lose a bunch of code that gets lost in a Git merge. But when you're working with a group of people, you have to have processes in place. For the most part, over the last year, I've been really working by myself. So I just have my files and folders are everywhere. I do whatever I want. I can push stuff to production whenever I want. It's really easy. But now I have a second job. I'm doing contract work, and I have to work with this guy. And you have to have process in place. You have to have a way of checking in your code, merging your code, making branches, and things like that. And it's really important that start learning these concepts now, because it'll make your life a lot easier later when you're actually in a job. I'm going to show you the process that I use that I got introduced to, actually not that recently. It's this freelance software house that I did some work with called Blink, and they call it a continuous deployment Git branching model. And you can find this if you just Google, if you just Google Blink continuous deployment, it's right there. It's one of the first links. But this will look really complicated, but once you start working with Git, and same thing with Subversion or TFS or whatever, you're going to need a workflow. You're going to need a way to work with your coworkers, and this is a way to manage that code. So I would highly encourage you to maybe start doing these things in your own Git repos on GitHub. Let's say you have a project on GitHub that you're working on, you're going to add a new feature to it. Practice creating a new branch, practice developing on that branch, practice merging that back into the GitHub repo. Honestly, I had the most trouble with this, and my coworker had to train me a dozen times, and he would get frustrated every time. And then I would just be like, here, you do it for me, and you just can't do that. You got to learn it at some point. And if you don't want all your code deleted, then learn how to do these things. And I swear, if you accidentally merge and delete all of your coworkers' code, you're going to feel like a big jerk, because I've done that before. Also, I overwrote a key once that took us forever to find. I thought we were going to lose the key on something, and it was a real disaster. It's important. It's really important. And it's surprising how important the non-coding things end up being in software development. Next lesson, and this is really a good lesson for you guys. Job listings are unrealistic, and they know they are. The people who are writing job listings often know that they're writing the dumbest job listings they've ever seen. It's just let me show you this. This is one of my favorite tweets. Dear recruiters, if you're looking for all these things, Java, PHP, remember, if you're looking for all these things, that's not a full stack developer. That's an entire IT department. you'll see, in fact, probably a lot of you have seen job listings that are like this. Like, we're looking for someone who knows how to do this and this and this. Those are just way too many things to know. And I was applying for another job in the fall, and it was a job listing that was kind of like this. It listed every technology under the moon. And I said that to the recruiter. I said, I don't know how they're going to find anybody who knows all this thing. And he goes, oh, they know that nobody knows all these things. They just, want to list them. I'm like, well, you're just going to scare people away. You're going to scare the good talents away. So I'm telling all of you now, so you don't get scared away. There's no way you're going to meet the requirements of every job description. Like, if you're a really good Java developer, you're not necessarily going to be a really good Python developer. And if you know those two, why the hell would you know PHP, right? PHP is like basically eye cancer to me. And React and Angular, you know one or the other typically is kind of how it works. And then I love it when you get to like database and they're like, oh, we want you to know relational databases and non-relational databases really well. Oh, so you want me to know all databases on the planet really well? No. So just be aware of that. One of my other really favorite things is this one. Found a job opening that requires 8+ years of Swift experience. Swift is a programming language that came out 3 years ago. I don't know if it's a joke, but it doesn't need to be true for the sentiment to be real. When you look at a job posting and it says, hey, we want you to have 17 years of React experience, something like that. Job postings are unrealistic. They know they're unrealistic. I'll show you someone who does a really good job of job postings. Is New Relic. New Relic. I don't know what their website is. So if you go look at the job postings on New Relic, I think that their job postings are extremely good. We'll go to engineering. Probably should have bookmarked one of these. Oops. So we'll just click on any of these. They do a really good job of talking about what you'll do. You'll be a member of a team, blah, 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 blah. But then they'll say, like, reasonable qualifications, like you speak proficient English, you have great teammate skills. Like, those are things people should have. You're very comfortable with asynchronous programming techniques. That's not a crazy, that's a concept. Then they have a nice to have section, and so like if I'm looking at it, I'll just speak for myself. If I'm looking at New Relic and I'm like, okay, I meet these things, and then I see that I meet a couple of the nice to haves, I'm like, oh, I might be a great fit for this job. Whereas if they had just listed all of these things, I would have been like, I'm not sure I can do that. New Relic is a great example of a company who's very realistic about what a developer should be able to do, a single developer. If you run across those other ones like this, where they want all these things, that's just not realistic. At Ski Data, for example, we had a hosting team, and this is not unusual, is you as a developer may never have access to the hosting environment, for security purposes. So I never had access to like publish content to the servers, so in those cases, you're not going to need to be managing a server, for example. You're not going to be able to deploy experience deploying scripts, in some cases. So it's just the takeaway. I know I'm saying it 1,000 times, but the reason is the first job is the hardest to get, and it's the easiest to get the most overwhelmed looking at the job postings. Once you're doing it, you realize, hell, no one knows all these things. And you just sort of more, whatever, I can do it. The most valuable skills are not in a Pluralsight lesson. There are tons of things that I can't remember that I've learned that I would have never realized they were a good thing to learn. Obviously you can go through all the Pluralsight lessons, you can learn the technical skills, but there's just so many like little tiny things that are part of developer that are not necessarily technical lessons. I'll give you an example of software estimation. One of the things that people are absolutely terrible about is software estimation. So this is a pretty widely a chart for software estimation that is pretty. Oops. Hold on, it's my first day using a computer. Okay, this is a pretty rough. This chart is widely used in software estimation, and if you're doing agile development, there's a reason you do agile development. But so, like, let's say your friend comes to you, and says, "Hey, I want you to build this thing. It's the next Facebook," and they say, "How long will it take you to build?" What I learned about software development is your boss comes to you and says, "How long will it take you to do this thing?" And he just sort of like rattles off the thing, and you say, "I don't know, like a couple days." So when it comes to actually writing software, what a couple days means, that may take an hour or it may take 2 weeks, And what happens is the margin of error gets a lot less as you get further along in the process. Like you've sort of specified the designs, all the requirements are there, how the UI is going to look. Really, the best estimate of how long something will take is when you finished it, you look back and you figured out how long it took. There's this website, this is really funny, programmer time translation table. How long do you think it's going to take? The programmer says 30 seconds. It's just a small code change. What the programmer forgot takes an hour. Oh, I got to start the computer, development environment. Oh, I got to download updates. And the funny thing is you get down here, your boss says, "How long will it take this to make?" And you're like, "Oh, it'll take me a week." And then you end up spending 20 days on it. And at the 20-day mark, your boss is like, "Why did you say it'd take a week? It would take 20 days. This is like one of the most common problems in software development. And this is not something that you really learn except by being burned by it in the job. And there are a billion things that are like that, just like little lessons, from keyboard shortcuts that make your life a lot easier, to just things like that. Another thing that's really valuable is knowing how to use Stack Overflow. And I just picked a random Stack Overflow. Of course, I'm sure all of you have been on Stack Overflow a lot. I'm just going to show you this. Hopefully I don't show anything really embarrassing. I'm going to go to my history. I'm going to Stack Overflow in my history. And here are all of the pages that I have visited in Stack Overflow in the last 2 weeks. There are a lot here. You're going to spend a lot of time on Stack Overflow. I do. It's just kind of how it works. But the lesson here is how to identify, you'll learn how to do this, how to identify a good Stack Overflow question and answer. This one stands out because, like, look how many times it's been upvoted. Look how many times it's been upvoted on the answer. You look at the people who have answered this question, and they have 40,000 and 68,000 upvotes on Stack Overflow. This is like one of the lessons that you don't really pick up until you've been doing it. Like when you've gone and looked at like 500 BS Stack Overflow pages and haven't gotten the answer that you needed, you learn how to filter out. It's like, like you have like a bunch of friends, it's able to pick out the good friends from the bad friends who are going to ask for money and not pay you back. Like those kind of lessons. So I've been on Stack Overflow for years, and I have 115 points. This guy has 68,000 points. So it's a way of identifying who's trustworthy. Where, obviously never just go and copy code off of Stack Overflow because it could be really bad. But, you can reduce your risk of copying code when you learn the lessons of what is a good Stack Overflow question. Another thing that I just want to share with you because I love it is this thing called Netlify. I don't know. So all of you should be making if you don't have a website, you should be making one. And once you make one, the question is like, well, where can I deploy it? And Netlify is a place that you can deploy it for free, and it's amazing. And you could basically just link it to your GitHub repository, and it will automatically do continuous delivery for you, deployment. I found this like over a year ago, and it has been the most valuable tool to getting a demo up and running. So like you make something, and then it's like it's running on your computer, and then someone says like, oh, can you show it to me? And you're like, yeah, come over to my house and I'll show it to you. No, you got to get it on the internet. And like, this is one of the things that you learn along the way. It's like, how can I quickly get things on the internet? For me, it's Netlify. For example, my website, jefflux.com, it's linked up to a private GitHub repository. I can pull down my repository, I can make a change. I can, let's say I shave my head, I can update the photo, and then I commit it to my repository. My website will automatically rebuild with the latest updates from my GitHub repo, and it's doing it with Netlify. So there's like, these are the kind of things that you pick up along the way, is like cool tools that make your life a lot easier. One other lesson that I'll tell you, which is actually really important now that we're doing everything remotely because of Corona. More than likely, your microphone sucks. Like I worked for Ski Data. I had a lot of meetings online because a lot of my coworkers were in Austria. Your microphone probably picks up a lot of background noise. Your cat with their collar clinking on the bowl as they eat is probably 100 times louder on your microphone than you realize it is. I don't know if you noticed. I hope my camera looks really nice. I have a very expensive camera, not for OnlyFans or anything, but just because I want it to look nice. And I have a nice hands-free thing here. It's a little easy because I have my own office. It's quiet, but if you're working around other people, like you have a spouse at home or something, get a microphone, a headset with a microphone. That's just another lesson that you pick up. You'll be on a call with your coworker Arnold, and his kid's in the background, and his kid's like playing with something, and you can't hear anything because it sounds 100 times louder to you than it does to Arnold. I don't know why I said Arnold. I was thinking of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is Danny talking? Danny, are you raising your hand? Can't hear you, Danny.
Do you have a question, Danny?
I think he's just waving. Good to see you, Danny. The last lesson here, make a tech career plan. You don't have to do this now. It's something that you should do during your career. And let me just tell you what that means. The first job, you're probably just going to take the first job you can get. And realistically, that's what I did. And that's fine. You want to get into the industry, great. Your plan right now, get a tech job. But as you're working, figure out what you like and figure out what you dislike. And pay attention to those things, because there's a joke with my coworker that we both hated writing front-end code, like especially like CSS. You're just like, we don't want to do that, and so when you're looking for your next job, like, pay attention to those things. Don't just be like, oh, I hate working for Acme Inc. These guys are jerks. And then you get a new job and you're just like, I'm going to take the new job because it's a different job than what you have. You may end up in the exact same situation if you're not thinking about these things, like what you like and what you don't like doing. I got a friend who really likes, my former coworker, he really likes working with databases. And actually, networking-wise, I got him a job 4 months ago. I applied for a job. I realized deep in that it was a really database-heavy job, and I just didn't want to do that. It's not what I wanted to do. So I said, I don't think this is the right job for me. I'm like in the third interview. I said, I don't think this is the right job for me, but I know someone who might be good for this job. So again, networking. So I called my friend and said, hey, I think you really like this job. He wasn't even looking to make a change. And he said, well, I do like working with databases. He got the job. He's making $1 gazillion now at this company in Portland, doing something that he actually enjoys a lot more. So it's really important that you pay attention to what you like and what you don't like. And as you move through your career, like, have sort of a plan. Like, I want to be a backend developer mostly. I want to work in the database mostly. Like figure out what is the way to get there and just work on it over time. Also, leverage your other experience. So I'm assuming most of you have had experience in some other field, whether it's, retail, or there's a guy I worked with, Brian Ha. He repaired medical equipment, If you can leverage your other experience, absolutely do that. I worked for years in the car business, buying and selling cars, not retail, wholesale. And these guys that I'm building software for now, I was able to take my experience with the car business, and I was put it with my software experience, and suddenly I'm like, I'm an employee that you just can't find when it comes to the car business, because you can't find someone that has that. So if you have experience, it doesn't matter what it is, be sure to look specifically for your previous industry, because you may be like ultra valuable in that industry after you've gotten some tech skills. Another thing you want to do is you'll want to pay attention to the market. I think I have a link here. This article has been written 100 times every year. The most popular programming languages to learn in whatever year it is. And you go down the list, and they'll always break it down by the number of open jobs and the number, the average salary. And the salary stuff's kind of, I don't really believe it. But it's really interesting to look at the number of jobs that are available. And, like if you're going to learn you're like, oh, I'm going to learn Visual Basic right now. Well, you're going to be unemployed, so know what the market is. And just, pay attention to those things over time. You may have to, shift course a little bit. I decided to also, I've been working primarily in C#, but I decided to learn, really focus on learning JavaScript over the last couple of years, and mobile development using Flutter. So, and I looked at, those things. Like, I always knew JavaScript was always up on the list. I'm like, I should really get a lot better in JavaScript. So just pay attention to the market. You don't have to go and do your own blah, blah, blah surveys and stuff. The other thing is go to Glassdoor. You can go to Glassdoor and you can research companies. I'm going to use New Relic. And you can get really great information about companies here. So I meant to choose companies. Here we go. Bear with me. So here we go. If you go to New Relic, you can see reviews by employees. This is actually about as good of a review as you can get by a company. New Relic, as far as I know, is one of the greatest places to work. You can see reviews. You can see reviews by software developers. Another thing that's super valuable is you can look at salary data, anonymized salary data. So if you look at, let's see what software engineers in New Relic are making, and you could also, let's see what they're making at New Relic in the Portland area. You can get really good information. So plan your career. Like, use the information. So you're eating dinner one night, and your spouse went out to go party with his or her buddies, and you're bored. Just sort of like spend some time on Glassdoor, look at job posts, look at the market, things like that. Because you're not just going to want to take the next job in front of you. You're going to want to take the job that makes you happy. Burnout's a real thing, and if you get stuck doing a job you don't want to do, you're going to get burnt out. So use the tools that are available. There's a lot of information available, and sort of make a plan. I had a plan actually right when I finished Tech Academy, which was that in no sooner than 5 years, and it's been 5 years, I wanted to be able to work remotely from wherever I wanted to. And ideally, my idea was to live in South America and work for American companies. That's really probably the best you can do, because you make American money living on a South American budget. But that's kind of one of my goals, and I'm actually pretty darn close to it at this point. And I'm working in technology I want to work with. I'm working in fields I want to work with, and I'm working with people I want to work with. And I made those decisions along the way. I've turned down jobs because I didn't want to work in technology, and I turned down jobs because I didn't want to work with certain people. And it was because I made those conscious decisions and had a plan. That is actually the last lesson. I know I kind of went over a lot of random things, but hopefully there was something in there for everybody, and you're excited about your upcoming career, and I hope you like me, like everyone likes me. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Or you had a question, Turtle?
Yeah, this is Leo.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, what was that website where you could deploy the web apps?
Netlify.com. So it's just netlify.com, and you can log in with your GitHub account or GitLab account, and you just link your repository. You may have to fudge with some things, but typically what you can do, so like when I launched my website, jefflux.com, I pointed it to my repo and I said launch, and I didn't have to do anything else. It was one of those moments when it like blew my mind, and I was like, at Ski Data, I had to build a deployment system, and it took me like 2 weeks and 5,000 Stack Overflow pages and writing scripts by hand to do that. And Netlify does it out of the box. It's kind of an amazing tool.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
really
free.
cool. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I went ahead and posted that link in the chat box too, so you can find it more easily or bookmark it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Can I come to South America with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds great.
I haven't decided where yet. You know, I know that so this is a random piece of information. Where?
Colombia. It's real cheap and real fun.
So I was thinking about Colombia, not because I'm into narcotics. So what's really interesting is I've actually done a lot of research about, visas and things like that. And like Paraguay, for example, if you put 5,000 American dollars in a bank account in Paraguay, they'll essentially give you citizenship. So just keep in mind that there are like all kinds of things like that. I've also looked at Vietnam. Vietnam's really cheap. I would live there. I went there a couple years ago for a while. But yeah, I really like South America. And yeah, you can definitely come. That's fine.
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
My name is Alexandru Filipescu. I'm from Eastern Europe, Romania. And,
yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I love Romania. I was there
Really?
the year before last. I'm not ashamed to say I have a therapist. My therapist is Romanian. Love Romania. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Cool. We also love you from here. I wanted to ask you if you work with Flutter. I'm now doing courses. I want to get better at it and stay with it. I'm finishing my computer science degree. But I want to stay with only with a language. And I wanted to ask you about the state management solution that you would prefer for Flutter. You know, there is a war out there.
There is a war out there. So,
and
that's
I don't know
actually
what to choose.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So, so what he's talking about is state management in Flutter development. So, if you build a Hello World app, of course, you're just going to use like stateful and stateless widgets in Flutter, which is not scalable. One of the problems with software development is you want to build everything so you can maintain and scale it. So I've actually been really deep into Flutter development for the last like 6 or 8 weeks because I took this new contract job. And the owner, who had already started working on it, decided to go with Block, business logic components. So I've been working with Block over the last 6 weeks. I knew about it beforehand. It seems to be a pretty straightforward method. I'm not super deep into the complex topics of it, but it seems it's going to do everything that we need it to do. Over the last, since I took that job in Spokane, I built a new application. In fact, when I just take a minute, I'm going to show it to you because this is actually really cool. Not the application, but React Redux. So Redux is another option for state management in Flutter. And so this is an app. I'm going to pull up Redux actually. Bring it over here. So if you're looking at state management, on your application, this is Redux. And so you can see that like all of the vehicle data is loaded and things like that. And so devices is not loaded. I can go to the devices page and you can, no, that's a bad example. But Redux is a really popular state management approach also. I personally really like Redux. The owner had already made a decision to go with Block. But, you know, in a lot of ways, they feel very similar to me in that, you know, you're going to dispatch some event, do something on the back end, and then, you know, return some state that needs to be rendered. I honestly think that Block is probably going to win the war for state management in Flutter. But, I mean, honestly, the best way to do something is whichever way you're best at it. So if, for example, you're using Redux, so you want to use Redux and you're good at it, then use Redux. You know, don't do something stupid, but use something that's well documented. But the best technology is a technology that you're good at.
Okay, thank
Hope
you.
that answered the question, sort of.
Yes, it helped.
Yeah.
Jeff, after graduating the Tech Academy, what would you say was the biggest key to getting hired at Ski Data?
Well, honestly, it did come down to personality. You know, like people want to hire people they want to work with. So, you know, and Danny, the course, they all talked about that too. It's like, yeah, you got to have the minimum technical skills to be able to do the job. But when they're interviewing you, they're asking things like, do I want to be around this person? Does this person seem like a team player? Does this person take showers? You know, those kinds of questions. And when I met with the senior dev who ultimately got me hired, when I talked to him, he was the one who got me hired. He was like, I want to work with that guy. You know, he seems like the kind of personality that I would work well with. That guy turned out to be a psycho and everything worked out. He got fired. I took his job. But, you know, I was on a number of interviews. We typically would do like team interviews at Ski Data. So they would talk to somebody and say, hey, we think we got a good candidate. We'd bring in, you know, 3 or 4 developers and do like a group interview. And yeah, we would ask some technical questions, but really what we wanted to know is like, is this person going to be clicking their pen all day in the office? You know, because that drives us nuts. So it really is going to come down to those soft skills in a lot of cases. And I think Danny, the curriculum, I keep saying Danny. I mean, I'm sure Danny's like not the overlord of everything now, but he was at the time for hiring, you know, that part of it. It really comes down to those soft skills, being able to communicate well and to, you know, not be weird, honestly.
Good advice. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. If you have any questions, now's your chance, because after I get off this call, my rates are a lot more expensive than free. But I'm really happy that you guys took the time to join me.
Yeah, that was so great, Jeff. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. Lots of incredible nuggets in there. And you do have a good personality, at least from what I've gained through this talk. So thanks so much for sharing with all of us. Reach out to Jeff on LinkedIn if you have any other questions. Not sure what his rates are, but I'm sure he'll let you know.
Usually, for Tech Academy graduates, usually my rate is a beer.
Perfect. A nice socially distanced beer. Thanks so much for attending, everyone. That was a great talk, great questions. We'll be posting it up on our YouTube. So if you want to revisit the talk, you totally can. That should be up by the weekend. And then thanks so much for coming. We'll have another Tech Talk next week at 1 o'clock. So make sure to attend that one as well. And we'll see you there.
Great. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it was a great presentation, Jeff.
Right. Do I typically end the meeting right now, or do I need to stay on for any reason?
We usually stay on just for a moment, just to see if there's anything else that we need to cover, like next week's talk or, yeah, I mean, nothing formal or anything like that. I thought it was a great talk, though.
Yeah, it was so good. He was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, Jeff's a great guy. I told you yesterday, I was a student when he was, and we did a lot of things together. We kind of got apart after he left, but yeah, we had some good times when he was a student.
Nice. Yeah, maybe it was fun. Like, oh, I want to work remotely in Central or South America. That sounds great.
There you go. You can go to Colombia.
Yeah, I spent about 6 months in Central America in 2014, or no, 2013. And a lot of people will do Central and South America. Yeah. And I met so many people coming up from South America that were just like, Colombia was the best. Colombia was the best. Go to Colombia. And not just for the drugs, although I'm sure some people took part, but just the really friendly culture, really cheap, fun beach life kind of situation.
Yeah, if you can, like Jeff was saying, if you can make American dollars and live in South America or Asia, there's a lot of Asian countries you can live in as well. And cost of living there is just like, it's like peanuts compared to living here. So, yeah. All right, cool stuff. Is there anything you want to know or any questions, Kenzie?
Any feedback you have would be good. But other than that, I don't think I have any questions.
No, I think it was a great first tech talk that you were hosting. So I think you did a great job.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. I'll see you in the meeting, Kenzie.
Yep.
All right. See ya.
Bye.